Hello folks, the White Guy here again. Welcome to my home on this very beautiful autumn afternoon. The name of this video is called The White Guy Difference Between Deity and Divine. And the reference that I want to use, see, I rarely ever just open up a Bible and use it and what have you. You rarely ever see that in my videos. I usually just give the addresses, but this one is so important to know, okay, that I'm going to be referencing the Lake of Fire passage talked about, and you'll understand why the name of the video is called The White Guy Difference Between Deity and Divine. There's a huge difference, and how this passage, Revelation 21:8, has been perverted and or just completely misunderstood. And I want to point out those errors by showing you out of a Coin Greek Bible what it actually says, what the lake of fire is burning with. It's not burning with what everybody's been taught, okay? It's burning with this. Do you see what I'm pointing at? Do you see those two words? And do you notice how those two words, fire and deity, are both capitalized? Keep that in the back of your mind as I continue, okay? That is the most important part of this video, most important part of this, it's the context of that verse. And yet the context is completely ignored by modern Christianity. And I want to point something out to you that will bring a smile on your face, okay? And give you peace in your heart. Because deity versus divine. Because this is the argument that you're going to hear. What I'm going to point out is the argument that you're going to hear from Greek scholar wannabes. First off, I'm not a Greek scholar. I don't want to be one. Okay? But I still want to point some stuff out. All right? When researching the difference between the words deity, with a capital D, and divine, I noticed just a subtle nuance. When asking if these two words were synonymous, when I researched it in every thesaurus that I could find, you know, I looked at the word deity, and yes, the word divine could be found, but only with another word attached to it. Attached to which word? The word divine, as in divine being, all in caps. Then it means deity in caps. You see? That's important to know whenever you're reading scriptures like that. So why is this important? Well, just keep watching. Even though I've done my homework and included a portion of what I'm about to say in this video in one of the 3 books that I published, I'm going to leave a link in the Show Me More section of the 3 books that I got published. I'm going to leave a link to Amazon. That's the commercial, okay? A person with a good understanding of Greek felt it necessary to inform me that when referring to the lake of fire burning with sulfur and brimstone is how the Greek word brimstone means divine, which is absolutely correct. Yet it's not correct at the same time, as I just pointed out to you. Did you see the word deity? I'm sorry, did you see the word divine in that verse I pointed out initially? When I put my finger up there and said, see, what does it say here in the Coin Greek? It didn't say divine, did it? It said deity. That's why I titled this video, The Difference Between Deity and Divine. They do not mean one and the same. And I'm going to prove it. Okay? Let me explain. But first, I'm going to digress. This video is mostly in response to a person's comment regarding my recent blog where I explained how the lake of fire description in the Bible is oozing with good news. And it shouldn't be feared as punishment from God. He was simply agreeing with me, which is really cool, and he was also pointing out how most Bibles use the word brimstone when describing how it's quoted in some, but not all versions, as, quote, the lake burning with brimstone, close quote. However, some versions say, quote, the lake burning with, the fiery lake of burning sulfur, close quote. While others read as burns with fire and brimstone. None of them say that. Not if it's translated properly. Okay? So what? Why are these differences important, White Guy? Well, I'm so glad that you asked that. Okay? Consider how the Greek word for sulfur is this. This is my great technology, by the way. One of these days I'll learn how to use a computer properly. But not today. See that Greek word for sulfur? Now notice the Greek word for divine and brimstone, both with a small d and a small b, they are exactly the same, but not sulfur, nor is fire. Okay? That's important. Keep that in the back of your mind, okay? Especially, nor is it the same as fire, especially with a capital F. As you noticed, when I pointed out that verse from the Koine Greek Bible, it had a capital F for fire, had a capital D for deity, when it said fire and deity. Keep that right on the tip of your brain, all right? With all this said, also notice how sulfur and brimstone, depending on which version, they're synonymous with one another in most translations, when the words originally weren't sulfur or brimstone to begin with. The irony of it all. Okay? I realize that sulfur was used in ancient times by the doctors of those days to purify the air. All right? They would put sulfur on a hot brimstone, I guess, and you know, heat it in the fire, and that's where all those words come in, and they would swing them around, you know, with these little, I don't remember what they were called, and it would purify the air and kill the germs. And my wife pointed out too that sulfur is even still used in modern day medicine too for purifying. So there's a reason they used it back then. And fire oftentimes in Scripture is used to purify something. But it's a huge leap to say that fire is translated as sulfur. That's a huge leap in translation, and I'm not going there. All right? So why is this important? Because in the minds of people, that's where the battle is, in the minds of people. Neither sulfur nor brimstone represent God or His love. Yet both words of sulfur and brimstone were just arbitrarily used in most translations in the Bible. Something as important as God and His love shouldn't be arbitrary, as in left to the whims and or the choices of an ignorant ancient translator. So in reading about the lake of fire that burns with sulfur or brimstone, it gives a horrifying picture in the minds of the reader. Does it not? Whereas God's love offers the exact opposite and completely changes both the narrative and the context of the passage. From the Koine Greek, remember when I pointed that out? It reads, burning with fire and deity, both in caps. The point of it representing God and His purifying love is what this passage is pointing out. Remember I said it's oozing with good news? That's good news, folks. Okay? And notice how the words fire and deity were used and not fire and divine. Okay? And how fire and deity were properly capitalized in Koine Greek rendering. And how both words represent God, yet sulfur and brimstone, they do not represent God. See how it completely changes the context? Just in case someone who is knowledgeable in Greek crosses your path, I'm offering a tidbit of advice that most don't even consider when reading about the lake of fire. The most important fact is how the capitalization of the words fire and deity is used in the Koine Greek rendering. Yet this is completely ignored in most all other Bibles. If not, then they would have capitalized the words sulfur and brimstone if they meant fire and deity. All right? So anyway, if one might be thinking, what does this got to do with the difference between the words deity and divine? As I first pointed out, especially in my title, The Why Guy Difference Between Deity and Divine. The word brimstone means divine in the Greek, yes, but it does not mean divine being, nor deity, all in caps. And you won't find a single Bible that capitalizes the word brimstone or sulfur. It won't happen. All right? So, if you can see the difference, then you'll understand that the word brimstone is moot, as meaning divine, as this Greek knowledgeable person pointed out to me. Or knowledgeable person in the Greek. Maybe he was Greek. I don't know. Okay? But it's simply moot. In one respect, even what I'm saying is irrelevant. Okay? What I'm sharing right now, in a way, because the word divine wasn't originally used anyway. but instead the word deity with a capital D was used in the Koine Greek rendering. Simply put, divine and deity do not mean the same, unless you include the word being, as in divine being. I already said that, all in caps, which can easily be interpreted as deity. See, I'll agree that divine means deity as long as it's divine being, in caps, along with capital deity, as I pointed out in the Koine Greek rendering. So in closing this video, what I'm pointing out, it's more than just simple semantics. It's the proper way to translate. Because one way of translating properly depicts God, while the other way describes something that comes from God. In other words, we're all divine, folks, because we all come from God. But we're not God, no matter what the New Agers say, okay? In other words, just let me close. I'm going to close with a bit of my my usual white guy sarcastic humor. If brimstone means divine, and divine means God, then am I to believe that for brimstone so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whomsoever shall... You can find that in the Book of Ignorance, chapter 3, verse 16. Look me up in a group called the Y Guy Group, and on Facebook, and also I go by an avatar name of John Anthony Jones. Oh. Let me catch you before you turn off this video. Most people who watch this video, watch my videos, they know what I'm going to say in the end, so they just click, turn it off. We already know all this stuff. And we've already subscribed, we already know him on Facebook, and blah, 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 all that. I forgot to ask you to do this. Okay? Give me a thumbs up, okay, on this video. I appreciate that so much. Back to what I was saying. Now you can go ahead, you old-timers, you can just go ahead and turn off now. Okay, turn this off. For those of you who are coming across this video, not so sure about me, look me up on Facebook. Like I said, under a group called the Y Guy Group, which is a private group. I have an avatar name of John Anthony Jones, which is not my real name, but look me up there. That's public. Also, I've already asked the old-timers to do this for me. Now I'm asking you newbies to do this, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. And scroll down and the Show Me More section. You'll see 6 links that I've left. For those of you, by the way, thank you for my Patreon supporters. There's a link down there for Patreon and coffee for those who are supporting this channel in that respect. So, and let me see, and then my website is down there, and I already mentioned my 3 books. Thank you for viewing.